If you ask for financial advice in your 20s, you will immediately collide with two completely opposite ideas. The traditional expectation tells you to buy real estate as early as possible to build equity. The internet tells you to ignore the house, rent a cheap apartment, and dump every dollar you have into index funds. Looking at this ledger, we can test both strategies side by side using the exact same starting variables. You are 23 years old. After taxes, you take home $3,140 a month from a mid-level job. You have $11,200 in cash. From this single baseline, the math splits into two very different lives. Path A decides to buy a house. To make the math work, you rent a cheap one-bedroom apartment with thin walls. The morning after every payday, you automate an $800 transfer into a high-yield savings account, earmarked exclusively for a down payment. You never look at the balance. You just let it stack. Path B decides to invest. You skip the homeownership goal and rent a slightly nicer apartment. That same $800 a month gets split automatically. $500 funds a Roth IRA, and $300 flows into a taxable brokerage account tracking the total stock market. At age 23, both of these paths require severe financial discipline. Both individuals are saving the exact same amount of cash, but the systems they chose are building entirely different architectures of wealth. By age 25, the reality of accumulation hits. Path A learns that saving 20% for a down payment is not enough. You have to pay closing costs to execute the loan, which on a $300,000 home instantly adds another $15,000 to your target. The buying timeline gets pushed back a full calendar year. Meanwhile, Path B faces a different kind of friction. The stock market drops 14% in less than a month. Thousands of dollars of on-paper wealth vanish. The only thing you can do is hold your nerve and let the automated deposits continue. This chart shows their standing at age 25. Both individuals survived the early friction, and both have amassed roughly $51,000 in total net worth. But those identical totals hide the mechanics of the money. Path A's net worth is pure cash, sitting idle in a savings account, waiting to be deployed into a single zip code. Path B's money is actively compounding across 3,000 different companies in dozens of countries. A spreadsheet showing equal net worths is an illusion. The liquidity and the potential energy of these two piles of capital have absolutely nothing in common. At 26, Path A makes the move. You drop exactly $70,000 at the closing table for a new 3-bedroom house in the suburbs. In a single afternoon, your entire liquid savings goes to zero. Your new monthly reality sets in. Between the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, and holding cash in reserve to replace things like a dead water heater, your total housing cost leaps to $2,310. The budget tightens. You stop investing completely to let the household stabilize. Across town, Path B's landlord raises the rent. You negotiate, but you still pay more than last year. Even with the hike, your rent is hundreds of dollars cheaper than Path A's new carrying costs. This flowchart shows exactly how Path B capitalizes. You calculate the difference between your rent and Path A's home ownership cost, an $882 gap. You pour that difference directly into the market on top of your existing investments. Path A traded all their cash for physical walls. Path B weaponized the lack of a mortgage to rapidly accelerate their share of the global economy. Through your 30s, life accelerates. Path A earns promotions at work. A new coffee shop opens up, property values rise, and you skip a primary suite renovation because the contractor quote is too high. By 35, your home equity becomes your dominant financial asset. Path B absorbs 5 separate rent increases over the same decade. You change cities for a better job opportunity. You remain a renter, and your automated portfolio quietly crosses the $300,000, then the $600,000 mark, while you sit in ordinary office meetings, completely unaware of the milestone. At age 40, this chart tracks total net worth. Path A's home equity drives their wealth to $556,000, but compounding returns pushed Path B past the $1 million threshold, reaching $1,088,000 through automated market growth. The renter holds nearly double the wealth. If you only look at the final numbers, Path B won easily, but crowning the renter the definitive victor ignores a massive structural variable that the spreadsheet fails to capture. Path A holds a quiet, invisible advantage. Their core housing payment was locked in stone 14 years ago. At 40, they are paying significantly below the current market rate for shelter. This graph measures inflation. It constantly drives up renters' living costs, but actively rewards the buyer. Inflation eats away the real dollar weight of a fixed mortgage payment. 18 years later, the mortgage disappears entirely, dropping Path A's costs to just taxes. Path B faces a stark liability. The liquid portfolio is massive, but their future housing costs are a complete unknown. They will always be subject to inflation, random landlords, and the pricing realities of cities they haven't even moved to yet. Path A traded a higher net worth for durable, structural certainty. Path B has immense capital, but they cannot guarantee what a roof will cost them at age 60. At 40, the $532,000 gap between them is not a failure of financial optimization. It is the cost difference between two completely distinct lived experiences. Path A stored their wealth in a single address. They have physical roots. They know the neighbors who bring soup when the power goes out. They have memories built into the drywall, and a bedroom ceiling fan that wobbles slightly, but they never bothered to fix. Path B stored their wealth in mobility. Their lives are defined by moving through multiple cities, choosing their next door at will, and relying on the absolute flexibility of millions of dollars in liquid capital. Neither of these outcomes relied on luck. Both individuals picked a compounding system at age 23. They fully automated the inputs, endured the friction, and let time do the work. The ultimate goal of financial planning in your 20s is not optimizing a terminal net worth number on a spreadsheet. It is deciding exactly which kind of freedom you want to live inside.